My name is Dr. Michael Brown, and this is 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the simple and yet strategic choices that all of us can make in order to become the very best version of ourselves. In my conversation today with my dear friend, Amy Seiffert, we talk about how to become more, how to accomplish more by living with less. It was interesting. It had some very challenging twists in our conversation. It was raw, it was real, it was vulnerable. As always, Amy Seiffert in our conversation today will pull back the curtain on her life and let you see her, but also give you a part of her story that is inspiring, challenging. Enjoy this episode. Amy Seiffert, you are one of the busiest people I know and such a dear friend. So it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to be here with you today. So would you share with us our 3 words for this conversation?
Yes. Live with less.
What? Live with less? Isn't the mantra of our world live with more?
Right?
You have so many thoughts about this. You and I have even been chatting off camera in our friendship and our conversations outside of this space. Kick us off with this conversation today. Why is this so important to you?
Oh, it's been like a 15-year journey in my life. So I remember sitting in the doctor's office after I had my second baby. And it was just a checkup, talking. And I just started crying. I was overwhelmed. And I was thinking, am I depressed? Like, what's happening? Like, the more I talked, then the doctor slipped me this sheet. Like, hey, I'm going to give you a few minutes to just fill this out. I was like, okay. And as I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is an ADHD form that they gave me. Cause what I was describing was like really classic, like inattention. And the more I looked at this and had this conversation, I was like, oh, I think I've struggled here for my whole life. And now I'm feeling it in my motherhood. And so that day after I came home, I was like, the more I read was like, simplicity is going to help you. Living with less, like less clutter, less clothing, less on your schedule, less pressure. So there's sort of like this physical lessness and emotional lessness. And so it just kind of began this journey of like, how do I simplify so that I don't, just some real basic things, lose stuff, forget things, like things are easy to find. My life can feel like it's, can move at a pace that I can like handle because it just was so overwhelmed.
Well, and Amy, 15 years ago, I mean, obviously I've known you that entire time and I continue to watch you evolve and grow. And in some ways I'm watching you do more and accomplish more, but I'm guessing it's because you're living with less.
Living with less.
So I'm curious, I'm assuming in this 15-year journey, you said it started 15 years ago.
Yeah. What
have you learned and what practices do you have in place to actually live with less to accomplish and maybe become more?
Yes. So one of the biggest things is clearing the visual clutter in my life. I have 3 kids. And so stuff just comes into the house. I remember feeling like, where is all this stuff coming from? And then thinking, wait, I have agency. I can choose what is coming in and out of my house. I just felt really overwhelmed visually when I would sit down to write or to accomplish anything and thought, I'm spending all this time like organizing before I do the work that I have to do. And so if there's less, like just clearing it was just a helpful thing to do. So, I mean, starting with my closet, it was great to look at it and be like, okay, there's like 2 or 3 layers here. Yeah. And once you have like a layer, like a second layer of a closet, clearly you're not using these things. So just eliminating choice, like just having less to start my day so that what's really valuable and important, I can put my energy and my time into, like writing, speaking, mentoring, being a mom, being present.
So for you, simplicity, even in your physical environment, is freedom.
Yes.
And clutter is suffocating.
Yes. And I was realizing it was tied to my ADHD. It was tied to the ability to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. I was always feeling overwhelmed by my environment. Okay. I also there's something related to scarcity and abundance mindset.
Okay. So,
there's this thing, like if it's free, I feel like I ought to take it. Or if so there was a season in my life where, there's something called big trash that goes on. You know what I'm talking about? And there's like all this orphaned furniture everywhere. And I think
on the side of the street, you're like, I have to have it.
I really should take that and fix it up and do something wonderful with it. But then my garage was like packed with all of this these unfinished projects and all the, it just kind of sits in the back of your head.
Yeah.
And so thinking, wait, I don't have to take anything that's free. I can pass that by and say, no big deal.
Yeah.
It just reducing what I want to do to get to the most valuable things, living with less.
So reducing
there. Yeah.
so that you can have more, but more of the priorities, more of the most important, because think
Your
about on a
best.
daily basis, how much we have around us and things that we're
Yes.
doing that don't really matter. And you're encouraging me even today and reminding me that to live with less means often I need to say no.
Yeah. And that's
which is hard.
Super hard.
Yeah.
It's super hard when you have a lot of passions and ideas and thoughts. Like I love to do so many different things. I love art. I love tennis. I mean, there's just so many things I would like to try. So it feels like there's seasons. Like this season, what are going to be my top 3 priorities right now? And there might be a different season where I can play tennis in this way. But if I'm going to reduce my schedule and live with less, I can actually pour into those top 3 things really well instead of having 10 things that I'm not doing that well.
Right.
But,
And early on in our conversation, you talked about obviously physical lessness, but then you use this interesting phrase, emotional lessness. What is that?
I'm a people pleaser, a recovering people pleaser. And so having to sit in a place where I will be fine with disappointing others and also not carrying emotional baggage, not carrying the opinions of others. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and I need to be okay with that. My books aren't for everyone. They're for some, but they're not for everybody. And so really releasing the pressure to please everyone and carry everybody's opinions really close to my heart and to really reduce those opinions to 1 or 2.
So Amy Seiffert, this is a very busy month for you. You just share with me that you're going to actually get a puppy in a few days.
Yes.
And then my producer reaches out to you and says, Amy Seiffert, Michael Brown wants you to do a podcast episode with him on this Saturday morning. I added to your pile. Was it hard to say no to me? Or I should say, because we asked you to do 2 episodes and you drew a line and said, I'm only going to do 1.
That's where it was. For real.
So let's just make this real. So did you feel the pressure to say, I probably should do 2?
For sure.
And you said no.
I said no.
And we're still friends.
How did you feel about that? Like
I feel fine about
loved
that.
me.
I feel fine about that. I feel fine about that.
Yeah, I did. You're right. That was a moment where I thought I can give this much time and this much emotional energy into thinking through this one. But I don't know if I could do another one because of the other things that are
going on.
Weekend.
And you decided to prioritize other things over me.
I did.
And I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even as you were sharing,
yes.
And even as you were coming in, you said, my mind's in 1,000 places. I'm getting a puppy and so forth. I mean, you actually made a choice to do less.
Yes.
Even in our relationship. And we're such dear friends. Yeah. And so I feel very proud of you in this moment. It's like emotional lessness was exhibited here even on this day. So,
yes. Yeah.
So, but I think it was helpful for you even to hear me. I didn't feel weird about that. It's like, it is what it is.
Isn't it? Like, and that pressure can build because I create another story, another world, or what people are thinking about me. And I need to just let it go and be okay with this. I remember being, in the yard a few years ago, and some other moms were having a conversation, and just the way it turned. It's funny. I'm like over 40 and you can still feel left out socially in these moments. And I had this moment where I felt left out in this conversation, and I went back inside my house and I had to sit there and think, I have a choice where I can carry this load here, or I can release it. And really wanting to live with less fear, less people pleasing, less whatever, and having to stand there in my kitchen with my hand over my chest and that spiritual dimension, but saying to God, like, you are going to be my strong tower here and protect me. I may be left out in this moment, but I'm not going to carry that. I want to live with less in this moment, and be free here.
Yeah. So not only live with less, but carry less.
Carry less.
Because more is heavy.
It is really heavy.
It's heavy. And we don't want to live lives that are heavy.
Yes.
We want to live lives on purpose. We want to live lives that are meaningful, but not heavy.
Right. If my arms are carrying everyone else's opinions, they're not free to do the work that has been set before me to do.
Wow. That is so insightful. how many opinions, how many demands, oftentimes from others and from ourselves, that we're carrying around to the point where we're literally immobilized and unable to live life on purpose and be the best version of ourselves. Living with less. Other thoughts, other areas where you're trying to think. You talked about obviously physical lessness,
Yeah.
emotional lessness. Is there
Yes.
any other thoughts that go around as you think about lessness? I think we just created a word. Is that even a word?
Lessness?
But-
Why not? Let's go for it. For the moms and the parents listening, when we think about our schedules, I really try to look and see, okay, I have 3 kids, and if they're each in one activity, that fills up our nights and weekends pretty quick. What does it look like to guard our family time well and to put that in the calendar first?
Yeah.
So that we're not run by the demands of, sports and all the things. And so for us, a priority has been, we want to do a family sort of adventure each season. So we'll put that in first. And it might mean that we have less other things because the priorities are already in place. So even this summer, my kids wanted to play softball, and we have this advantage where they're pretty close together. And I say, if they can be on the same team so that we don't have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but that Monday, Wednesdays is both, like, one played up and one played down. And so I just wanted to reduce our schedule and have less going on. So to think creatively so that there's just more freedom, and even freedom for spontaneity. If I pack my schedule,
Yes.
I'm not free to be like, hey, let's go do this thing right now. Like, this thing popped up, or go hang out with somebody, or if someone is in need and you can reach out, you have that space. I want margin and space, but it has to be like ruthlessly saying no to some things and being committed to less.
Amy Seiffert, I not only read your books, but I read your life. And I enjoy sitting with you and learning from you and being mentored by you. And I think that's just a great way to kind of wrap up our conversation today about this notion of space. And so if you're listening today, if you're viewing us on our YouTube channel, however you're connecting to this particular conversation, it is likely that you need more space, that you're feeling in some ways, in some dimension of your life, smothered, cluttered, burdened, heavy. I think we all need to take Amy Seiffert's advice today to live with less. What does that look like for you today? What do you need to decrease in your life? Is it the opinions of others that you're carrying around right now? Is it literally rethinking your physical space, your home, your apartment, where you live? What does it look like to become more by living with less? For life coaching, consulting services, or to hire a keynote speaker, please visit dmbcoaching.com.